गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम Sai Ram everybody. Sai Ram. Sai Ram. On behalf of our Sai Center, I welcome everybody for this wonderful program. And especially this month, Aradhana month is very special for all of us. And speaking about myself, I was so attached to physical form, but from this day onwards, Swami has actually taught me how to travel inwards and find him. I guess that's the biggest thing, that is the biggest blessing that he has given to all of us, especially during this month. And I'm very happy to welcome the second speaker in the series of Samarpan program. Just to give a context of that Samarpan program, this has been started in India in Vrindavan, not in Hyderabad as I announced in the past, but Swami has blessed the program to be, initiated with the students and so on. The word Samarpan has two parts to it, like I mentioned, Sama and Arpanam. Sama is in equal, and Arpanam is offering it to Swami. And what are we offering? In thought, word and deed. The moment we offer that, Swami's music will flow through us. Not taking much time, I would request Dr. Prasad to come forward and formally introduce the speaker and welcome him for the second Samarpan talk. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. On behalf of the committee and the members of the Bethesda Sai Center of South Bethesda, it's my pleasure to welcome Ravi Mariwalla back to our center. He has spoken here a couple of years ago, I just found out. This is the second in our series of Samarpan talks, and we're privileged to have Ravi speak to us. Ravi, where are you? Ravi is originally from Bombay and studied at Bhagwan's College for a period of 9 years. While there, he was a part of the speakers group as well as the brass band and many other things. I had a brief conversation with Ravi yesterday, and he gave me two profound examples of Bhagwan's omnipresence and grace. Ravi was unfamiliar with the mostly South Indian tradition of using hair oil until he went to Prashantinayam. And when he did, his hair was wavy, and he decided to follow by using a whole lot of hair oil in his hair. At which point Swami called him and said, "How do you keep your hair so low plastered? Mine is so wavy." And Ravi remembers this very distinctly. A second, more profound experience that Ravi shared with me was Bhagwan's unannounced visit to the super specialty hospital in Prashantinayam. It was a late Sunday night. There was no preparation for his visit. And he arrived solely to bless a young female patient who had undergone complicated cardiac valve surgery while dealing with a pregnancy loss. Ravi distinctly recalled the most overwhelming compassion shown by Swami towards this virtually unknown patient that none of the staff or students recognized. Ravi is a clinical perfusionist by training and now works in the IT aspect of healthcare and lives in Cary, North Carolina. May I ask that you come up and speak? Could I ask that you conclude by between 5:20 and 5:25 so we can have closing and end with Arati. Sai Ram.
she said. Pranam said, Bhagwan's lotus feet. Dear brothers and sisters, I was happily sitting there and flying in the powerful and blissful atmosphere that you all created by worshipping our Bhagwan. And here comes Dr. Prasad, and much like Swami used to do when we were enjoying our time with him, so fervently singing bhajans, with a flick of his eyebrow he would say, "You are the next speaker." And we would crash land because we had to think what we would say in the next few minutes. And we knew that once we were speaking at his behest, we were in his control, and then we could not just stop when we wanted to. Because on the day that you had least prepared to do this, he would say, Inka cheppu, tell something more. So it is those beautiful memories and hundreds of those that fill the heart. And on this solemn day, on this solemn occasion, when we try to recollect, revive those astonishing moments that we spent, that we were so blessed to be able to spend, those elevating moments, as we try to do that, all of us realize, without being able to put into words, like some of us can do better than others, that we made this journey all the way from mental, analytical, sensory perceptions to the heart. And it is in the heart we reside, in the heart that we find Swami. And this whole concept of Maha-Aradhana, Aradhana means worship. And I'll tell you as we go along that Swami said that according to me, the best form of worship is not pressing my feet even when they are available to you, even when you have access to them. But it is the Manasik Puja that really pleases me. And this he was telling to adolescents and 20-year-olds. And it is now for us to cogitate, to regurgitate those memories, those ideas, those things that he shared with all of us. And I see, I'm now a little bit shaken when I see Sister Geeta there. But nevertheless, I have to continue. But look at that picture of Bhagwan. It is just the movement of the mind. Like Swami used to say, forever he repeated these analogies, and at one point we tired of them, but today those analogies come alive in the mind. It is the same mind that I had 25 years back when I lived in the ashram. It is the same mind that I have today. But in the bliss that is created in the worship of the Lord, it is like turning the key in the lock to the right side and flipping the lock open to enter into a new dimension. And when we leave the Sai center and get back into our work situations, our life situations, watching TV, talking and managing problems, it's like we've turned the key to the left and locked ourselves out of that dimension of peace, of beauty, of divinity that he brought us into. And it now depends on us in these few years that he has left us to think about what he said, to digest it. It is for us now to take that step and ask ourselves, as we do this aradhana or worship, how is it that we can please Him? That is the single biggest theme that we should have as a cloud around us. How can we please Him? What would Swami want me to do to please Him? So we often talk about, on this day especially, and on a day like the October 20th, we often talk about the advent or the descent of the Lord. And I found this beautiful passage which I really aligned with very well. It's one thing to say that He came to redeem the burdened earth of the bad people and to revive the Vedas and all that. They're very abstruse, abstract thoughts. But when you look at this statement that Swami made, he said that the divinity incarnates for the prime purpose of responding to the yearning of the devotees. And this divinity, this form that thrilled us, inspired us. There are people who used to go to Prashanti Nilayam, sit in the 100th row, and when Swami used to walk, their body would go into a thrill. They would start weeping. The magic of that concretization of divinity that He was came in response just to the yearning of the devotees to be thrilled again for their spirituality, which is not something dry and bookish and conceptual that we make it when we talk about words like consciousness and awareness, but that thrilling sensation that is not at all a sensual perception or a sensual moment in your body, but is so divine. That is what He came to create and recreate in us. And when He left us, look at the way He is saluting. It was a mission complete. Devotees inspired. He created and secured. He didn't just create. He didn't just touch and leave. He created and secured many shining examples of that power of love, compassion, and character. And one thing He always did was never take credit. After He had done mind-boggling tasks, He always stood back and gave credit to His devotees. So much work done, and yet Swami's life was never about achievement. He never liked to sit back and recount, oh, so many patients operated, or so many heart valves implanted, or so many devotees in darshan today. That was never the objective of his life and his mission. And towards the end, his life again brought out a very beautiful lesson. That love is in fact powerless. Love is not demanding. Love has no hold on you. Love cannot say, I did this for you, do this for me. He came, He gave, He touched, He inspired, and then He left silently. And there is this very beautiful story that Radio Sai has put up years ago, where it says, there was a young man who came up to the public square in the village and started parading his beautiful red, complete heart. And as he stood there, a crowd started gathering. And they looked at his heart and they were thrilled to see such a complete, beautiful heart. And then just before they were about to declare him as having the best heart anybody could have, an old man came there. And everybody was shocked because they could see that his heart was not in good shape. And that old man came and stood besides this young man who was parading his complete and grateful heart and said, "My heart is damaged. It had holes, it had stitches, it had gaps." He said, and everybody started laughing at him. How could you even think of comparing your heart with the complete heart of this young man? And he said, love is about giving and not expecting anything. He said, what about these holes and gaps in your heart? And he said, when I love somebody, I reach into my heart, into the recesses of my heart, and I pull out a piece of my heart and I stick it on the heart of the person I love. And I make my heart deformed. And if that person returns a piece of his heart to fill the gap in mine, then my heart is complete. But when they don't respond, when they don't reciprocate, the gaps in my heart remind me of the love I have for those people. This is an analogy which shows that the selfless Lord came to all of us. We were the chosen and the called ones. And He did precisely that. He reached into His heart. He tore out a piece of His heart and He stuck it on our heart. And that is why today we are so connected with Him. Though He is not physically present, each one of our hearts has a piece of His heart on our hearts. And imagine how many holes and gaps are there on His heart. So as I was thinking of how I should create a takeaway for this session, which is both solemn and joyous, because the advent of the avatar is nothing but that eternal effulgence, that eternal cosmic effulgence, deciding out of its compassion to create some endearing and loving expressions of itself. And though Swami gave us these endearing and what we describe as awesome, great, fantastic expressions of His love and His divinity and His power, only a fragment of that remains with us. But even that little fragment causes ecstatic experience. So I want to talk in these terms of the eternal effulgence, the endearing expressions, the constantly sweet and loving expressions, and the impact it had on us in terms of ecstasy. And if you look at Swami's range of actions, he basically did three things. There were epic events, mind-boggling creations, and then there were events where he showed the model for recreating this world in an ideological way. He brought out what nobody has done and nobody can do again. But he set that standard for us through these models of societal uplift. The hospital, the water project, free education. But the most sweet part of the avatar's life, was at the individual level. Can anybody guess what is that picture? A little bit of quiz to wake you guys up as well. Okay, very good. Did you know that?
Yes.
Wonderful. Yeah. So this is how, don't imagine that the 108 names of Baba were just given to him free of charge. He actually worked to get those titles. And look at the fascinating story of Sudha Raghunathan, who would not have been there because she was actually gone in the back seat of the car. And then Baba appeared there as an old man. And that's how the name came, Jodi Adi Palli Somapayanama. When we talk about the work that the masters have done to earn these titles, I often think about a topic that was very dear to me when I was in Parthi as a student, which was the life and story of the Lord Jesus Christ. And as we remember him today, in a positive light, with the spirit of the resurrection. But I want to take you back to that moment as to how they earned those titles. So in the Garden of Gethsemane, when Judas betrayed Jesus, with a kiss, by the way, the Roman soldiers surrounded the disciples of Jesus who were there, and one of the disciples, in his anger, and because it was such a sudden thing that was happening, he took the sword of a Roman soldier and he chopped off the ear of that soldier. What do you think Jesus did? At that moment, he rushed towards the wounded soldier who was in the next few minutes going to be the cause of his being crucified, and healed his ear. And then he carried the burden of the cross while he was whipped. And as he mounted the cross, it's really worth reading these beautiful sentences that he said. There were only 4 or 5 things he said once he was on the cross. One of them was to Mary, because even in those moments of torture, it was his bounden duty to hand her over for her wherewithal. And he said to James, "Behold thy mother." The other thing he said in passing, which we all can relate to, we say to Swami the same thing: "Lord, why hast thou forsaken me? Why have you left me?" That is the same feeling that a Meera had, that a Radha had, that we often have, especially on this day. Lord, why have you left us? And then, taking courage, the last statement he made in Hebrew is Lama Lama, Eloi Lama Sabachthani, which means, Lord, into your hands I commend my spirit. Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And then there was oneness. And after that event of the crucifixion, which shook Jerusalem, in 3 days there was the resurrection, and he came amongst us again. And it is with that same hope, maybe not in the body, but with the hope that Sai resurrects within us, within each of us. There was a press conference in 1993, and they asked Swami, Swami, what is your succession plan? And Swami said, there is no succession plan. And they said, but who will run all these institutions? And it's important for us to note, because while we smile and chuckle, there is a lot of responsibility on all our shoulders. And Swami said, my devotees will take my mission forward. So we are not going to go scot-free. In fact, in the Bible it is mentioned, from those to whom much has been given, much shall be demanded. And while we enjoy and are uplifted by doing more of what we are good at, which is the bhajans and the worship of Sai, the demand is also going to come to all of us to take the reins of his mission and to run it. So when you look at these three things, the endearing expressions that happened and the ecstatic experience that it created in us, what was the purpose of all these experiences he gave us? The revival of the dead. Numerous examples. I am now afraid to put a number to it because I was speaking in the silent retreat and I said, I have counted 3 examples, and the gentleman from the crowd who said, no, there are actually 7. So now I'm not putting a number to it. But the revival of the dead, curing innumerable diseases, cancers, all of these things, what was the purpose of it? A mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its old dimensions. This mind that we have, Swami used to often tell us in Kodaikanal that you know why all of you are sitting here around me? And he used to actually point to his feet and say, I take all your vasanas and I hold them at my feet. And these are very graphic things Swami was saying, because we used to think, oh, we are getting 4 terrific meals and we are getting to see Swami while eating, and then we have a chit chat with Swami, then we have photos with Swami, and here Swami is taking us somewhere. I take all your vasanas. So now what are these vasanas? I thought I'm flying with divinity and I have vasanas. Vasanas are literally, if you see the meaning of the word vasana, it means smell. But in Sanskrit, it denotes what we have incarnated with, which is luggage, which is baggage from earlier lifetimes, which are our tendencies. What do we tend to do? What do we tend to like and dislike and do in our lives? And he said, I take all your vasanas and I hold them at my feet. And that is why when we were around him, we were more focused. We were not distracted by the world. Imagine 400 students and he would just tell us, I want you all to walk looking down. And we used to walk looking down. Who would walk looking down? Are these guys all a little bit mad, walking like this looking down? 2 days back, there was some SSC recording for a drama going on in my house. One of the little girls, she came up to me and she said, you know, uncle, my mother also studied in Anandpur. So I said, so? Didn't you ever see her there? And I said, do you know the extent of the discipline that we had? There is no question of my, even when I used to go to meet my sister in South Prashanti, we used to meet on the steps there. She was an Anandpur student, I was a Puttaparthi student. I used to walk with my head down. And it was not that somebody was going to beat me up if I looked up. It was out of having immense respect and value for the words of the Lord. We wanted, because we were so thrilled. This was our hero. If there was any way we could please him, because the next time we went into his presence, when he just connected his eyes with ours, we knew that our life is an open book. It is not that the warden or somebody else was spying on me with binoculars or a telescope. It was because the Lord, the next time his eyes connected with mine, I knew that he knows everything about me. But that never scared us. I lived in Parthi for 23 years, waiting, hoping that those 2 loving pair of eyes could connect with mine and open myself to him once again. And the day on which it would not happen, those were my saddest days. So those experiences that we had were intended to change the dimensions of our mind so that we could be useful to Him. Imagine this poor westerner lady, Phyllis Crystal, sitting in a plane. If you hear her talks, she was even terrified of talking to 4 people to start with. And she lived to be more than 100 years of age. And she addressed thousands of gatherings, inspired millions of people. But when she was in that plane with the hijackers, and she spoke to Swami, and she got that message to radiate love, she did it. And that saved all the people in the plane. So that is the purpose of these endearing expressions. Endearing as they may seem, loving as they are, but these experiences are intended to change the dimensions of our mind. And why is it important to know that? Okay, so the experiences are happening and they are changing our mind. What do I need to do? We need to stop coming in the way. Unless we can acknowledge that, hey, there is something going on within my heart. There is some beauty, there is some thrill, there is some bliss in certain situations which goes away when I watch like a crime movie or something. Then I know acknowledgement of the fact that that seed that Swami planted in us is sprouting, is growing, is important. Because otherwise we will be coming in the way and may even smother it. We have to water it, not with only weekend bhajans, because then we'll become weekend devotees. But we have to water it with the power, with the remembrance of Sai. We have to foster that environment that he created in Puttaparthi. Put apart the I. The moment you enter the portals of that beautiful, small, tiny little place, all of a sudden you have put apart the I. But there you have help from that tremendous power source that there is. Once when Dr. John Hislop landed in New York on the way back from Parthi, he was sure something was wrong with his eyes. Because behind every individual in New York airport, he saw, like that first picture of Swami that I put up, Swami's hair and Swami's form until the shoulders. And as he walked into more crowded spaces, he saw so many Swamis behind each of these people. And he was terrified with the experience. But he lived that experience for 3 years. And one day when that experience vanished, he went back to Parthi, and in the veranda he told Swami, Swami, that experience has gone. Which experience he didn't tell? And Swami didn't ask which experience. He said, Hislop, don't you know all experiences, all phenomenon are temporary and passing? Now I want you to practice seeing Swami around everybody. And those are the things that he did for us. So we were given the fruit of maybe hundreds of years of sadhana without doing that sadhana. And that is what happens in the lifetime of the avatar. It's all topsy-turvy. The things which should come after sadhana were given before sadhana, and now we are told to practice and make those things firm. So I want to tell you a few stories. Some of the stories that are dear to my heart. All of you know about Raja Reddy, who was an attendant of Bhagwan. And I've told this story in the past, but I want to relate it to a particular thing. And as an attendant of Bhagwan, in the early years, he would sleep in the same room as Bhagwan on the cot and him down. And one day when Swami had laid down on his bed and Raja Reddy Garu lay down on the floor on a mattress, suddenly Swami made a very pithy comment. That's all these great masters, this is the mysticism they bring. And he said, Raja, if you see the light coming from your chest, you are a Krishna devotee. If you see the light coming from my forehead, you are a Shiva devotee. And Raja Reddy was sleepy, he had worked all this time, and then what is this statement? It has no head or tail, no introduction. Swami, but he didn't want to, in Swami's presence you don't say that. So he heard it, but he couldn't figure out what this would mean. And then, as he was trying to sleep, all of a sudden he became alert. And from where Swami was lying, he saw a light emerge, a dull but beautiful light emerge from the region of Swami's chest. And all of a sudden he was able to put two and two together. He said, oh, he was awake now. And then the experience just passed. That light just went back to Swami. Now Raja Reddy, what did he do in the morning when he was clearing up Swami's room? Swami had gone out. He saw Swami's blanket. And that's how the mind works, right? The mind is such a brilliant tool. It can do so much. Watson and Crick found the structure of DNA without looking at the microscope, through the microscope. The mind is an amazing tool. But when he saw the blanket, and then his mind said, but Swami has this 5-cell torch. Swami had this 5-cell torch, flashlight, because devotees used to leave their jewelry with Swami. Indians, the women wear a lot of jewelry. When they came to Parthi, there was no accommodation. They would live around the mandir in the open or in tents. And they would take out the earrings, nose rings, necklaces, toe rings, I don't know what they had, and bundle them up. But they never thought of labeling those bundles, but they would give it to Swami. And Swami had one big cupboard and he would open it and put it in. And then when they had to leave, they would suddenly remember, I don't have any of my jewelry. They would go to Swami, and at that time, maybe there was no power in Puttaparthi, there was no current. So Swami would say, so he needed the 5-cell torch to shine in the cupboard, but he didn't need to look as to which bundle was for which woman. He would just pick up the bundle and give it to her, and it would be her jewelry. But he had kept this 5-cell torch, flashlight. So Raja Reddy now, his mind had started working. He said, blanket, torch under the blanket, dim light coming out in the region of Swami's chest. Perfect! Imagine. And the beauty of the narration is that whoever we are, however great we may be in terms of position, proximity with Swami, the beauty is the fact that we are one group. We are all in the same school. And this is such a powerful thing for me. Because Raja Reddy, when he narrated this, you can see it on Radio Sai, he was such a respected individual. But he did not care. Because what is that respect? We want to be respected by Bhagwan. We don't want to be respected by others. And at that moment when he was doing this science experiment, who else but the Lord walks in at the most inopportune time and tells him, oh, this is what you've understood about me so far. But what I wanted to tell you about this incident, fun as it may seem it is that brothers and sisters, look at the customization of the experience. What we call endearing expressions. Look at how they are customized for us. What you and I need to learn, only that is being taught. Only that is being taught. And the second beautiful experience is, all of you have heard of Mr. Popat. So he used to call himself Swami's puppet. Nice way to twist the name. And so one day he went to the mandir. Swami was in the Yajur mandir. And he knocked on the door and he told Satyajit that I have come for dinner with Swami. So Satyajit said, "Sir, please wait." He went to Swami and he brought out a message. And the message was, "Mr. Popat, you should wait near the Purnchandra area." So Mr. Popat went there and waited. He waited for about 2.5 hours. Only 2.5 hours. And then he realized that his legs were aching and he saw people coming in and out and he realized that there's something going on, but what can I do about it? After nearly 3 hours, Brother Satyajit came out and said, "Mr. Popat, Swami is asking whether you want a chair to wait." And he was wild, he was furious. And he said, "No, it's okay." And he continued standing. After around 8:30 p.m., Mr. Chakravarti and other people came out and they looked at him and said, "Popat, why are you waiting? Swami is retired. I think you should leave." And then a few seconds later, Satyajit came out and said, "Mr. Popat, you can leave." So he left and he was furious within, he was burning. And the next morning at Darshan, Swami completely ignored him. But then, after a day, Swami was looking at him from the side of his eyes. He said, "Popat, come in." Swami took him inside the interview room and asked him, "Popat, how are you? Popat, how are you?" And Popat realized, he thought, "Okay, I missed that dinner with Swami, but now I'm in the interview room. Let me not spoil the opportunity." I said, "Swami, I'm quite fine." Said, "Yes, but you were not fine on that day. And Popat, you say in all your speeches that we should learn to wait for Swami, we should learn to pray to God and have patience. What happened to you that day when I kept you waiting?" And Popat, it is for that reason that I gave you the lesson. So in the first instance, we saw the customization of the lessons for us. In the second instance, we see that Swami, though he sometimes makes us go through these trials and tribulations, is what we see. They are actually helping us to prove to ourselves that we have the power to do this. Then I want to move to a very beautiful incident that is in my own family. You can see how nicely my dad, by the way, that's my dad, that's me, and that's my sister. She teaches in the primary school, and that's my mother. And this was a beautiful occasion. My dad had a heart attack, and Swami said, "I'll see him." He materialized Vibhuti, and my dad is today, this was in the year 87, I think. What does it say there? 89. So, my dad, with Swami's grace, what's the date? 93. 93. That's the time they moved to Patti. But he had the heart attack in 89, and then Swami. So, but what happened is so interesting. And it, by the way, it wiped the smile off my dad's face. So, in 89, when Swami rubbed Vibhuti on his chest, he told him, "Mariwalla, how many years do you have for retirement?" He said, "Swami, 4 years." He said, "After 2 years, you take early retirement and come." And my father, of all people in our family, we thought, when we came out of the interview room, we thought, gone case. He is never going to obey. But he never looked back. That is what Swami knows about each person. So in this time, when I had an opportunity to speak in front of Swami, this was like 78, 79. So you can now start guessing my age. But at this point, as a SSC kid, when I spoke in front of Swami, Swami mentioned to me, I said, "Swami, I want to join your college." I had this fascination, I want to be one of those guys marching into the mandir. I had no clue what I was getting into in terms of how my life would change. But Swami said, yes, you come. What grade are you in? I said, "Swami, I'm in 8th grade. But I said, "Swami, but my father will not allow me." And he said, I know, your mother has a lot of devotion. But he said in Hindi, तुम्हारे फादर को अंदर में है. Swami, why are you so pithy? Why don't you explain yourself? Can't you speak in complete sentences? He just said, but लेकिन father को अंदर में है. Your father has it inside. He didn't say what. I assumed it was devotion. Because he said your mother has a lot of devotion. Father को अंदर में है. And when we fast forward all these years, and Swami told him, you have 4 years, in 2 years you quit and come. He went back and told his company's CEO, I'm going to quit in 2 years. So why are you saying it now? He said, because I want to prepare for this. I want to hand over everything to you, other officers. And then at that point the CEO told my dad, I'm doubling your salary, I'm giving you much better car, I'm giving you all these allowances, I will pay off your housing loan. And my dad said, you know, it's coming a little too late. If you had told me a month earlier, I might have considered. So what happened in that 1 month that you're not willing to accept a literal tripling of your salary? He said, a lot has happened, I cannot explain that to you. And then he moved to Parthi, and this is 93 when we moved. I went and told Swami, because we had so much privilege because we were the first employees of the hospital, so we had a little bit of a hotline with Swami if anybody has a hotline. And when I told Swami, my parents have come and they moved here. He said, Enduku vacharu? Why did they come? Swami, they hired a truck, everything that they could salvage from a house, they brought it, and you're now asking me, why did they come? But anyway, he called us for an interview, and then he said, 1 week में job देता है. I'm giving you, to my father he said, that's why you probably see that great smile. I'm giving you a job in 1 week. And my dad, when I talk to him now about this great experience that he had, he said, you know, at that time I thought I'm a professional. If I'm worth my salary getting tripled in Mumbai and I'm one of the leading professionals in human resources, I can do a lot for this ashram. I can do a lot for the college. I can teach management studies, I can run the ashram better, I can teach them better about management, training, policies and all. And that is why he's smiling with that pride that I can do this for you, Swami. And Swami said, 1 hafte mein job deta hai. He made us very happy. And then what happened is he started ignoring my dad completely. And every time he would talk to me, he would talk in a hurry, he would not meet my eyes. So for instance, he would call me inside the interview room, and I said, oh, he's going to tell me about my dad. Because that was the burning issue for our family. And I would go in and say, Mariwalla, watermelons unnai, tisko po. Take those watermelons and go and distribute it to the devotee. Swami, I want to tell you about my father. Watermelons. So like that, he kept us on tenter hooks. And in those 3 years that he made, he elongated that 1 week into, my dad learned so much. As he sat amongst the devotees, he met somebody from Europe who ran a $100 million company, but he was waiting for Swami to guide him about expansion plans. He saw numerous other things happening around Swami. And he said, I thought when I'm going to join Swami's ashram, I can transform the way it works. And he started lowering his expectations and reducing his ego. And then when that started happening, when Swami would go for a drive, he would tell the driver, Radha Krishna, who was Swami's driver at that time, he said, Mariwalla chala bagunnaru, he's waiting here, and Radha Krishna would tell somebody, and then that somebody would come and tell me, and I would feel so good. So few days would pass happy because, oh, Swami knows that we are waiting. That's how he softened the blow. But it took 3 full years for him to bring the smile back to my dad's face and give him a job. So that's the other important thing that I wanted to say. that these experiences that we say are ecstatic are actually, while accommodating you, he brings you close by helping you develop that real staying power. But you don't know what he's doing to you. You think it's about a job. You think it's about your early retirement. You think that Swami is testing you. But actually it goes far, far beyond all that. And at one point I remember just a funny thing. My dad's eldest brother came one day to Parthi and he said, "But Baba rubbed vibhuti on your chest and you are a heart patient. Should he be giving you a hard time like that? Don't you think it will stress your heart?" And today when we look back at it, my dad is able to climb 96 steps about 10 times a day. His heart is not working by the medicines or anything else. It's sheer divine grace that is keeping him going. But more important was the way he allowed Swami to teach him these lessons. And when I, as a student who knows that this is how Swami works, when I can see that even as a devotee and not a student, he was able to accept these manipulations and movements that Swami was making. And then the other very important thing in our experiences is intensity. I want to tell you a quick story about intensity. So we were with Swami in Chennai and we were living in a different place and Swami was living in Sundaram. And this was in 1991. And then what happened is that every time our bus drove into Sundaram because we were living away, we would hear the Aarti. And I used to feel so frustrated that everybody used to think that, hey, you traveled with Swami. You guys are having so much fun with Swami. Only we knew that out of the 1 week that we were in Chennai, for 4 days, we hadn't even had a glimpse of Swami. And I'm sharing this in the spirit of a lesson that I learned. So one day, when we drove into Sundaram, again we heard the Aarti. And out of sheer frustration in my heart, I said, "Oh Swami, what is the point that you brought us here with you? The whole world thinks that we are enjoying your presence and time in your presence. But actually we are missing you." And I literally took the sides of the seat and I wanted to tear them out. I was so upset. You will not believe it. This is a very personal lesson. The moment we got down from the bus, we were 54 boys. The moment I got down, I did not know that Swami is standing on the other side of the door of the bus. And Swami, when I got down in the line of boys, Swami said, "Call me." And he materialized vibhuti. He gave it to me and he took my hand and took me to the Shirdi Baba statue that is there in Sundaram. And he said, "What is that on his head?" I was speechless. And Swami said, "Golden Kiritam." Just in passing. And then when we returned to Vrindavan, that same intensity that probably he had created in me, he had lit that spark of intensity in me. In Vrindavan, they were taking pictures with us. And I remember distinctly that there were 7 of our students with 7 cameras taking these pictures. What happened was that, as you can see there, we are standing in a very shaded area on the picture on the right and below. And it was very important that the flashlight should work. And 7 cameras, the flash failed. And what Swami did was, if you can see in the lower picture and in the upper picture, I am folding my hands, Swami gave me like a private interview in public. He started chatting with me, asking me things about family, myself, food, education, everything. And the only thing that I have as a takeaway from this incident was that great feeling of yearning. an intensity when I was unable to see him in Sundaram. And to me, that is the biggest thing that I feel I have to do every day. If I want to connect with Swami, I take a YouTube video or a picture of Swami, I need to be able to bring my consciousness to the level of yearning that I had that day in the bus when I could not see Swami. When Vivekananda asked Ramakrishna, when he met him for the first time, "Do you see God?" Ramakrishna said, "But my son, who wants to see God? Who wants to see God?" So for us, having seen God, now the question is, do you want to see Him again? And if you want to see Him again, if we can recreate those intense moments of yearning that we had, which brought us to Him in the first place, then we will see Him within us. On a lighter note, you can see how it's actually hard to see where Swami is in this picture. There are a lot of instruments, there are a lot of different things, caps. And this picture brings a very sweet memory to me. So these are very beautiful, very nicely made band dresses. And I was part of the brass band. You can see me a little bit serious guy on the bottom there, kneeling. But I have a very beautiful memory of when these band dresses were stitched in Purnachandra Auditorium. How much? Sorry. So when we were, we had old band dresses. And then Swami said, no, that was okay for 60th birthday. But now for 65th, 5 years later, he stitched new dresses for us. He said, I want new dresses for you guys. So we went, gave measurements. This was all in Purnachandra Auditorium. Imagine getting your measurements taken in Purnachandra Auditorium. So we did that. And then after some 10 days, Swami came to the mandir and he said, "Band boys, meer ikkadunnaru, why are you here?" You always created that excitement and enthusiasm. Why are you here? So now what wrong have we done this time? Your dresses are ready, go and try them out. So in front of Swami, we got up and we bounded to the Purnachandra Auditorium. And then these tailors, there was a group of tailors sitting there and stitching our dresses. And we were told to take these dresses, go backstage, the famous stage, and we used that stage as our changing place, and we changed and came down to show the tailor how he'd stitched our dresses. And lo and behold, we found Swami standing there, waiting for us. And all of a sudden we became very self-conscious, as if this was a fashion parade, and they're like, oh no, now, this is not just a tailor. And Swami, when he saw us, humor flew from his mouth. The first chap who was coming was a big guy, and Swami said, "Hey Maharaj, they used up 3/4 of the material just to stitch your dress." And that fellow suddenly, felt very conscious. Another guy, his dress had been stitched very loose. So he said, "Hey Tailor Garu, Miru, Sai Gita, did you see the ears of Sai Gita and try to make it, this dress is flapping like that?" And then to the third chap he said, "Oh, such a perfect fit. Poi darshan ichchesra." So we were like, oh my God, what a beautiful moment this is. But as you know, right, when you get something from Swami, you want more. So we said, now we knew there's no way to hold him. He'd cracked all those jokes, he'd seen all our dresses, now we would go away. And nobody wants him to leave their presence. So he said, Swami Namaskar, please, please. He said, no. And he started walking away. And we were very disappointed. And that's another very big lesson that I learned, that we got so much from Swami. And it's not just the students. If I, who got so much from Swami, who got to see him in so many different situations, as an institution builder, as a chancellor, as a guide, as a guru, as a healer, as an astrologer, I saw Swami in so many different situations. But we don't acknowledge the beauty and the depth and the numerous occasions on which he gave us that grace. We always look at the fact that the cup is half empty. We don't see that the cup of the worldly man is fully empty. We have received so much from Swami, and still we want to make the cup full all the time. And that is typically the thing that happens with us. So when we started calling out to Swami and he started moving away from us, our chant, our chorus became louder. He said, Swami, please, Swami, please. And then he turned back at us very seriously and said, hey, and that made us all freeze completely. Because now the situation had changed from one of joy and mirth to Swami becoming a little bit upset with us. And then Swami walked away. But the Lord, and these are symbolic. See, Swami's life is only symbolic. In those 75 years that he spent actively giving love to devotees, he has carved out the symbolism for generations to come. For generations to come. Just like that one act of giving when there was a big crowd and there were only 4 fish and 3 loaves of bread, and the disciples told Christ, oh my God, there are thousands of people here. And Jesus, what did he say? He said, this is a lot of food. Go and start distributing it. And with faith, they took those 4 fish and 3 loaves and they filled the stomach of so many thousands of hungry people. That is what we have to remember today. That the Lord, this Lord is completely different from anything you and I will ever see. Generations will not be able to find something like this. And we have to remind ourselves. We have to feel that extreme enthusiasm. We have to let ourselves jump in joy. We have to let ourselves cry in grief. When he went away, causing a little bit of anguish and worry in all of us, now what's going to happen? Swami is upset. Suddenly he said, hey, boys! And we all ran. We thought maybe Swami is going to give us a laddu or something. And he was standing there at the edge of the stage. He said, Durnapotalu, you guys can't think. You are studying science and PhD and this. You can't think. If I had given you namaskar there in the dusty Purnachandra auditorium, all these dresses could not have been used tomorrow, day after tomorrow for the birthday. No use stitching these dresses. They all had to go to the dry cleaner. And Swami was standing, believe me, just like this, at the edge of the stage, with his toes protruding out, so that we could touch them without having to bend. And unfortunately, he's had to say so many things to us, to explain to us what he's doing. And this incident is not about the band dress and about us getting namaskar. This incident is about what he did with us all through his life. He gave, we couldn't hold it, we couldn't understand it, we demanded more. He told us to wait. We thought he's getting angry. Then in the right moment, in the right time, he called us, making situations even better for us. adjusting his whole body, his time, his mission, so that we could benefit from it. That is what is the symbolism of him standing on the edge of the stage. Just imagine this avatar who had so many responsibilities, who had so many things going on, even purely as a human body. He had the ability to think of our band dresses getting dusty and about how he could still fulfill our wishes and give us that complete joy. He had given us joy, but to complete that incident, that event, he had to conclude it with that beautiful add-on or icing on the cake. So we have this choice. This is my personal time with Swami. And it's gone. And I asked myself the question, Ravi, when you were there, were you only near him? Or were you near and dear to him? Who is dear to him? There are many who could not get near to him. If I start comparing what I got in my life with Swami, with a Satyajit or a Dilip Chaudhary or so many other great individuals, great students who are blessed to be so close to Swami, I will be looking at that. My glass will shrink even further and I'll feel like it's empty. But that's not what I should be doing. I should be rejoicing in the memories, in the instances, in the incidents that a Dilip Chaudhary, that a Satyajit, that an Indulal Shah, that a Srinivas got in their interaction with Swami. That is the purpose of the mission of Christ. That is the purpose of him feeding the thousands with those 4 fish and 3 loaves of bread. So that we remember, having done the action once, the wise man will remember, oh my God, I have locked my hands with this divine Lord and let me never unlock that grip and he will take me places. So that's the question. If we have to think in terms of this Aradhana day, how to please him. He came to please us. He pleased us in every respect. He gave us what we wanted. We wanted rings and chains. We wanted watches. We wanted interviews. We wanted discourses. We wanted namaskars. We wanted him to take our letters. And he took them. And now he's asking us, just like that analogy of that old man plucking into his heart and sticking a piece of his heart on the person whom he loved, but leaving a gap in his own heart. Swami is asking us, are you near or near and dear? And how can we become near and dear to him? One is by visiting Puttaparthi, but the other is by visiting our altar. But the best way is to do Manasik Puja. So this incident happened when Swami announced that I'm not going to give Namaskar anymore. And then what he did, mischievous Lord as he was, he announced, so in a discourse, I'm going to stop giving Pada Namaskar, which means you cannot touch my feet anymore. And then he called about 7 or 8 of us boys. We were so fortunate. That evening after the discourse, he called us inside the interview room. And look at the habit that we have. As he closed the interview room and went and sat down, we dived on his feet and started massaging them. And he said, Vinleda, you didn't hear what I said? And all of a sudden, what do? Can't take our hands off Swami. This is Swami's feet that we love. We can't do this. So we just became a little gentle and slow and, continued massaging them, but pretended that it was now coming back and we didn't know what to do. And the loving Lord that he is, he said, Parvalidu, heroes cheskondi. It's okay. Today you do it. So it's as if this new law, this new regulation, this new legislation, okay, I'll enact it from tomorrow. So this near and dear, this is a journey he wanted us to start making. And that day, he said these words to us. And he said, I like it that you want to massage Swami's feet, you feel very close. But do you know what I really like? Is Manasik Puja, which literally translated is mental worship. And one of the best ways to cultivate inner purity is this monkey mind that we have. If you only chant the mantra, the monkey mind will make you forget that mantra. Very soon you'll be chanting something else. But if you also visualize the beautiful form of the Lord and bring back to your memory those 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 instances of interaction you had with Swami, or any inspiring moments that you had, or as is described in the Bible, the first interaction that you had with Swami. It is said when Christ saw the 12, one after the other, this is described in some Psalms, that when he looked on John, Peter, Matthew, Luke and others, in Christ's mind it flashed before him the entire life of sacrifice that these disciples would spend in furthering the mission of Christ. And that's a very beautiful thought. If you and I can bring back to our memory constantly that first time that you encountered the Lord and what it did to you, it couldn't have done nothing, because you won't be here so many years later. If you have sustained and remained enraptured and connected with Him through all these years, definitely some magic happened at that time when you first saw Him. That's a very powerful thought to bring back into your mind. Nevertheless, this Manasik Puja that Swami has spoken about has become very important in my own life personally. And the way I started practicing it as a student after Swami said this is that, in Puttaparthi, everywhere there are a lot of pictures of Swami. Inside the ashram, you are flooded with Swami's pictures. But even when you go outside the ashram, though they think it is commerce and they are selling Swami's pictures, but you see all shapes and sizes of lockets and small, big, large, extra large pictures. Even the buses have Swami's pictures and sayings. So you can start doing that to yourself. Start bringing Sai into our consciousness more and more and more. That is a great form of Manasik Puja. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because every time Swami asked me to speak, there were so many miracles he had performed, some of which I came to know, that I would start recounting. Then Swami would listen for 2.5 minutes, and then he would just make a sign like this. Say, chal, hospital gurinchi cheppu. So I thought, I should be recounting Swami's miracles and all that. He would say, enough. This is all enough. There are others to do this job. You tell them about the hospital, things which you alone are seeing, which is worth them knowing. So there were many occasions. Then I got tired. I stopped preparing my speeches with any spiritual experiences and miracles and all that. Only prepared my speeches with hospital facts and figures and events. So that is what Swami wanted me to communicate. So this is a picture of Bhagwan. This is on April 29th, 1991. Swami had announced, as you all know, in 1990, on November 23rd, that he would build this hospital. And Bhagwan, as he is Bhagwan, he didn't just stop by saying, I will build the hospital. He went on to tie everybody down in knots by saying that on this same day next year, I will be broadcasting to all of you that we would have completed 4 heart surgeries. My God, everybody was worried, deeply worried. Swami, why did you have to do this? Even though it is your holy divine word, there is no way we can make this happen. And Swami threw everybody into a quandary with this. And I want to tell you this because I was there first hand. This is not a miracle I'm telling you about Raja Reddy Garu. I'm telling you something that I got to see first hand. And as students, we never thought for a minute that Swami, you can't do it. We never had that thought. Merely because he was our hero, always. We just felt, oh my God, we just had to be around him. We never got the thought or the question in our mind, can he do this, can he do that? We had seen him doing all kinds of things. One day, the grandmother of one of my classmates was sitting on the ladies' side where the ladies sit for interviews. And Swami came with both hands full of letters. And there was no way he could do anything with those letters, but he insisted on holding all of them. And then he tucked some of them like this and patted the knees of that lady on the wheelchair. He gave her his hand and his letters started falling and he made her walk. You know, some people think, just like nowadays when you travel by plane, it's a fashion to ask for a wheelchair, right? You can get past the gate, security, everything. I thought in my mind, maybe this is one such case. And later on when I went and found out, the lady had been wheelchair ridden for 19 years. So the fact that Swami performed transformative, epic level events without any fanfare, without any announcement, without the chanting of any mantra. In fact, he makes it so down to earth that people are more worried about the Swami's balancing act with the letters than they are worried about how on earth did that woman who's never walked for 19 years able to come out and walk. And Swami, for proper impact, took her inside the interview room, and then when he was closing the door, he came out and said, take the wheelchair away. So that in case when she comes out, she wants the wheelchair, there is no wheelchair. So that is how he worked. And he made these superhuman acts so easy, so simple, that sometimes we forget that they are incredible. And this incident, you can see Swami looks a little bit serious. And what happened, Swami's got the maps or the plans, the architectural plans of the hospital on his lap. And he's explaining them. And then what happened immediately after this, to Swami's left there was a door. Those who have been in Kodai know that. And then Colonel Jogarao was responsible for all the construction, a very dear devotee, trust member. He said, Swami, please come inside. He didn't want to say it next to all the students. Swami said, Cheppu. No, Swami, please. Swami wanted him to say it aloud next to all of us. And there were women, there were other VIP guests. So he took Swami inside and he told Swami a single sentence. Swami, there's no funding for this hospital. And look at the date. So from November to April 29th had passed. And Swami, no funding for this project. And you know what Bhagwan did? He said, Chal nak telsu, I know everything. And he came out from the door and squashed all this privacy and confidentiality and broadcasted to all of us. Jogara Cheptunaru asal Dabbura. There's no money coming for this. And everybody started laughing. And you can see that the project that involved importing of massive equipment, cath labs, laboratory equipment, biochemistry analyzers, blood bank storage devices, heart monitors, heart-lung machines. A heart-lung machine alone costs about $250,000. And we had to have 3 of those because if one fails, and then we had to have an ECMO, and I could go on and on. But Swami was telling everybody as if it's a joke. And then that was the state of the hospital. So what happened is, Swami sent us to Delhi for training for 6 months. So when we came back, we thought, wow, now the hospital is ready, it's our hospital. And Swami was not letting us go to the hospital. We came back from Delhi, we were sitting in the darshan, and we were all raring to go. And Swami was making us do bhajan and talking to us, giving us interviews. And Dr. Safaya, the director of the hospital, was asking us, why aren't you guys coming to the hospital? You're the only trained staff we have, 6 of you. I said, sir, we can't come without Swami's permission. So what is this Swami's permission? Swami sent you to Delhi, you guys are wasting your time in the mandir, come on. I said, no sir, sorry sir, we cannot do anything without Swami's explicit permission. So finally on the 4th of November, Swami saw us and said, you're still here? He said, now what? He said, go to the hospital. Without any fanfare, gone to the hospital. And that was the shock of our lives. That is exactly what we saw in the hospital on the 4th of November. There were 4 levels of work going on. The tiling was being done. You can see the roof is pretty well completed, but operations are not done on the roof. The walls had been tiled, but the tiles had to be, granite had to be laid on the floor. And when I entered, I had been an operation room guy. So I asked, where is the operation room? We were immature, young guys, fully enthused about our role, and said, the operation room is up there. But nobody warned me, and I said, where's the staircase to go up? And there was something happening which looked like it's going up. And I walked over there and said, you can't go like this, you have to wear a helmet. I said, I thought I have to wear a cap and a mask, you're telling me to wear a helmet? And then I somehow made my way to the operating room, and I saw there were no monitors, the heart lung machines hadn't arrived, there was nothing there. And yet, on November 22nd, Swami inaugurated the hospital. We had completed 3 cycles of fumigation. We had done extensive testing. Every possible disposable, if you don't know, there are almost 400 different items that are used in a cardiac operation, apart from the instruments, apart from the equipment. 400 different items were tallied. They were available in plenty of stock. Sizes, valve sizes. You don't know what valve size a patient needs. It looks like he needs a 1921, but he may want a 25. You have to keep all those things available. And on 22nd November, we had that operation. And this picture that you see is, after I had helped in the surgery, by being a clinical perfusionist, I ran the heart-lung machine for 2 out of those 4 operations. And then I took Swami's permission because on the same day, I had finished my MBA the last year, and I was supposed to receive the gold medal for academics. So I was very worried. I was torn between serving in Swami's hospital, but I didn't want to miss the chance of getting the gold medal from his hand. So previous evening, I had found my way right up to Swami's interview room. I said, Swami, tomorrow can I come after the operations for gold medals? Tapagara, come, surely come. That is such a great memory for me that as I was straddling between being a student and an employee, finishing my MBA and becoming a professional in the cardiac OR, I had Swami's blessings, and I was the first person who broke the news to Swami about the fact that the 4 operations had been completed. Not that he needed to know, but what a bliss, what a grace that we ordinary pathetic human beings, full of vasanas, full of limitations, full of impurities, he gave us this opportunity to participate in the building and running of these temples No temple there, temple here. Temples of healing. And brothers and sisters, one day he called me just like that because I happened to be sitting in the front is what I thought. And he took something from his table where he keeps the letters in the interview room and he gave me some small device. And I'd never seen a device like that. He said, go and talk to all the patients who are operated in the hospital. And we will publish this, he said. So I took that little recorder that somebody had sent from the US to Swami and I did more than 200 interviews with patients, their families, and in complex surgery cases with the doctors, with the cardiologist, with the cardiac surgeon. It was never published. Swami never bothered to ask me about what I did with that because Swami doesn't believe in looking back and flashing success signs and numbers and all that. Swami just gave it to me for my own education because I would have never talked to 200 patients and found out what is happening in your life. And that's a huge lesson for us in the US today, where healthcare is in such great trouble. Swami over there, without funding, with all the challenges. When power, Mr. Vishwanathan is here, when power used to go in Puttaparthi, it could go for as long as 9 to 12 hours, there would be no light. A heart operation takes between 4 to 7 hours. And there are numerous times when battling all these odds, they have run the generator for 24 hours, 36 hours, and we have got through our surgical cases, our other work in the hospital. And one day, there was a patient for whom we had to transfuse 10 bags of blood a day. And in a period of about 8 days, we had already transferred, because he had gone into what's called DIC. He was bleeding. Blood was coming out of virtually every pore. But with Swami's grace, the doctors were able to rescue that patient and bring him back to his feet. And when I went to Brindavan, Swami was giving a discourse. And see the Divine Lord, he saw me over there and his eyes locked with mine. And I knew something is happening, but I couldn't figure out what. After he finished his discourse and sang his song, he called me. And he turned his mic and he said, Cheppu. I had no idea what Cheppu, what? Cheppu what? What should I say? And then it struck me, oh my God, I should tell about that patient. And I said, look at this patient, he had this problem, we were giving inhalational antibiotics and we gave him so many, and so I was so happy. And that's the extent of the advertisement he allowed. To his own devotees, to his own family, he spoke about the rigor, about the expense, about the challenge that he was dealing with. And when we think of that statement that he made, most of Swami's quotes, if you Google, you will not find any source. Now, of course, they append Sathya Sai Baba to it. But Swami's quotes, really, this is an eye-opener for us. His quotes are so spontaneous, so rare, and never taken from any source. Everything is coming from himself. This particular statement that he has made always thrills me. There is no equivalent. Duty with love is desirable. Duty without love is deplorable. Easy to criticize. Oh, this nurse, she's not feeding the patient with any love. She's looking at her watch to get off her duty. She's giving me an injection so badly. Duty without love is deplorable, yes. Duty with love is what we mostly do all the time. But love without duty is divine. And that is what he's doing there. Love without duty. Sathya Sai Baba had no duty to all these millions of patients who have been seen. I think it's 3.5 million patients have been seen just at this hospital. More than 40,000, 70,000 surgeries just in the cardiac OR. And the statistics can go on and on. Love without duty. No connection. You know, in the first year of the hospital, we were actually not able to get enough patients. So they would tell us, hey, do you know any patient who deserves surgery who's poor and we can operate? So we started passing the word around to devotees in Mumbai, this place, that place. We started operating those patients because there was funding, there was budget, and Swami wanted us to do a lot of work. And then suddenly the crowd started coming from Bangladesh, from different parts of the country, from outside the country, Nepal, and we were not able to cope with the waiting list. And then somebody suggested to Swami, very smart analytical idea, Swami, what happens if we limit the surgeries only to devotees? And Swami said, who is a devotee? Who is a devotee? For Swami, it was not like he has to start practicing universal vision. Like you and I read a book, oh, awareness, you can hardly read awareness. Then what is awareness? And it's gone. Swami didn't have to think, oh, I should be universal. He was in and out, universal. And then at one point I remembered, somebody said that, Swami, the expenses are mounting. Why don't we put a small registration fee, 5 rupees, 10 rupees for registration? And it came down so heavily on all of us. And he said, never. I don't want any publicity. I don't want anybody to know that this hospital is free. I don't care. I said, but Swami, so much work is happening. Shouldn't the world know? He said, it's not for the world to know. And see, brothers and sisters, that is the purity of intent that stands out so differently from all that we see around us. All that we see around us. There is lack of purity of intent. And here is the opportunity you and I have. At least in our own lives, to some extent, let us bring in that purity of intent. The karma that we are accruing by doing action, pretending to be for some cause, but actually being for a selfish motive. And here was Swami, with no compulsion. Nobody approached him. Nobody told him, Swami, there's so many millions of patients who are dying because of rheumatic heart disease in the villages in India. He knew it. He felt the pulse of the people. And he decided to act. And that is what is important for us. All these experiences are an inspiration to act. Just like Popat stood there, and when Brother Satyajit came and told him, Sir, Swami is asking whether you want a chair. He said, no, I can do it. Just like my dad said, yes, I had a heart attack. I should not be going through this stress. Swami said 1 week. It is 3 years today. Inspiration to action. That's what all of us need to do. We have knowledge. We have devotion. We have more than anything else the blessing of Sai with us. He's guarding, guiding, protecting. You know, when he used to repeat this, what has become like for us a cliche, we should revive that memory. So I used to always say, I am around you, inside, all that. He used to say that I am within you, beside you, inside you. And for me it became such a cliche. When Swami used to say it, I used to shut off. But nowadays, when I hear that in a discourse, it strikes me that why is he repeating it? Because there is a transformative impact of us believing in that statement. It's not about him having to say it. It's about us having to believe it. The moment you and I start believing, oh, Swami is in me, around me, above me, below me, what does it do to you? And that is what is lacking. We have to now start believing, acknowledging, and practicing that. And that whole thing, that inspiration to act, why is it driving us? This is a beautiful letter he wrote in 73, which is about spiritual hunger. Unfortunately, the clock is not allowing me to talk about spiritual hunger, but I want to say something very dear to my heart. And this is a quote from Khalil Gibran, which as a student was one of the favorite books that I carried to the mandir every day. It was called The Prophet. And for those of you who have not read it, you missed something very big in your life. The Prophet. Khalil Gibran, who was a Lebanese poet who lived and died in New York in 1945, he's written a lot about love, but I only brought out this one passage here. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not that you can direct the course of love. Think not that you can run Swami's mission or Sai centers or national or international projects. Think not that you can direct the course of love. This avatar's work is not from the mind. All else that is happening in the world, election campaigns, career development, education, is all from the mind. We only operate from the mind. And the mind comes out as words and actions. But here was somebody who never operated from the mind. Never ever operated from the mind. The mind was a sliver in this being that was there. And if we have to understand and connect and use the power of that being, we have to remember that love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. That is what happened to Phyllis Crystal in the plane with those hijackers with the detonation devices, 10 detonation devices per person. That power of love, Swami found her worthy and radiated his divine, magical, hugely powerful, transformative love through her. If you and I can remember this, and Swami used to often tell us in the interview room, don't say, Swami, do this for me. Swami, make me catch this plane. Swami, get me these marks so that I can get an outstanding grade in chemistry. That's what we used to do as kids. Instead of saying that, Swami, you are mine, this is something he often repeated to us. Say, Swami, I am yours. And I invite you all to try and do this. Next time you're in your altar, puja room, just look at his picture and say, Swami, I am yours. Swami, I am yours. Swami, I am yours. Swami, I am yours. This is one of the best mantras. When you say, Swami, I am yours, everything falls off. All your burdens fall off. Your situation in life is decided by him. The dollars in your bank are what he wills. Your problems are not yours. And you have no demands to make on Swami. Swami, I am yours. This is Swami's own injunction to us number of times. And this comes back to me and I feel like sharing it because for me it has been a transformative mantra. Swami, I am yours. And if you go to delve into what it means, what is the impact of saying that those three words, Swami, I am yours, versus saying, Swami, do this, do that, get me a job, get me a better job, get me a good wife, I'm not having children, get my son into this college. That is all saying, Swami, you are mine. Come on, follow my commands. As I'll take your photo off my puja room. Right? Those days are gone. We have all evolved. Now we are at a point where we all smelt the perfume coming from within our hearts. You know, it's that kasturi. That perfume is not outside. That perfume is coming from within our hearts. Why is it coming from within our hearts? That being, he tore into his own heart and he picked up a piece and he stuck it on our hearts. And that is what is releasing this perfume within us, which is nothing but the fact that we tasted that divine bliss. You could not be coming back to the Sai Center for all these years if you haven't experienced the no mind state. The no mind state that is written about in all those books that the Himalayan yogis are struggling to find. You and I have been in the no mind state hundreds, thousands, probably millions of times. But what do? We go back from the Sai Center, we help to clean up and all, get into the car and start chatting about something. I'm not telling it as a critical thing, I do that too. But I have tried to change that, tried to acknowledge what is it that happened to me when I worked on these slides. Was I just working on these slides because they are slides and I have a talk? No, there's some ananda, there's some sweet thing seeping out of me. Something happening within me as I work on these slides. Every time I look at that form, this is not a picture from Google. This is not an old picture. This is a live picture. This picture, if you look at it, it can make you start sobbing. But if only you do. So that is what will make us worthy of Swami directing our course. If we focus so much on him. If we think, if we remember, if we acknowledge that within us is the experience of that no mind state, which we often say, why are we here? We are here because we want self-realization. We have already started to get great glimpses of self-realization. Great glimpses. But we throw them away. Those glimpses come, say, come on. I'll do seva, I'll do bhajan, I'll match my shruti. I will look at the mic and just say, yes, do all those. But that incipient joy, which is bringing you back every weekend, which is making you look at Swami, think of Swami, call on Swami. You have already started to move towards self-realization. But you don't acknowledge it. We deny it. And as long as we are in that state of denial, we cannot maximize that conviction that we don't need spiritual practice. Swami used to often tell us, hey, Dhyanamanta Chevud, don't, you guys are wasting your time. And then we used to ask him, so Swami, what should we do? See me in everyone. Oh my God, better to meditate, we used to think. Why did we ask him? But that's what he wants us to do. What Hislop saw around everybody, Swami's silhouette, he wants us to try. And I've started to do that in a small way. Sometimes, and you know what I do? I put my password in many places, Swami $9. Swami in all $9. So that earlier my passwords used to be breathe $9. You know, because work is so stressful, breathe. Now, after hearing that, I say, Swami in all $9. So, hey, that guy who's talking on the other line in the company calls, he's telling you off, he's punishing you. Swami in all, Swami in all. So that's what he wants us to do. So on this day of Aradhana, we cannot satisfy him by putting some flowers and garlands alone. We've got to please him by saying that Swami, we will see you in all. And that way, he will find us worthy and then he will direct our course. We will not feel, what should I be doing next? Everything will occur to you. So many times it occurs to me, all this work that I am doing is dukrin karne. Shankara has said, all this is worthless. After having met and understood and been touched by Swami, let's remember, most of our worldly activities are dukrin karne, meaning useless chanting of repetitive grammatical rules. We have to start believing that most of what we are doing is a wasteful expenditure of our energies. At least let us start by remembering that. And then, I'll close with this. When I am close to you in the spirit, I will be very distant to you in the body. Because you have recognized my true nature. So Swami has put us in the current situation from 2011 till now because he feels that we have recognized the fact that he is far beyond the body. You were in the US, he was in Puttaparthi, and still you worshipped him. Still you felt like doing the right thing because you always believed in the fact that Swami is not just that form in Puttaparthi. That's what I have come for. My main mission is to awaken the inner Guru. And he told Phyllis Crystal when she was leaving him and saying, Swami, when should I come back next? And Swami said, it's not necessary to come many times, but come now and then and I will recharge your batteries. So beautifully said. But then he said the secret. He said, meanwhile, Mrs. Crystal, he used to call her Mrs. Crystal, find my counterpart inside you. Find my counterpart inside you. So if we do that, then we would have regained his presence. Jai Sai Ram.
Wow, what a narration, what a recount, and what an introspection. I think I must say here, thanks to Ravi, initial introduction was that he was initially a cardiac perfusionist and later on switched his profession. He hasn't. And now he has become a better perfusionist. He has perfused, as Khalil Gibran said, that divine love, what it was by his introspection into every one of our heart. Thank you so much, Ravi. You've done your job very well here. You justified the first profession that Swami had given you as cardiac perfusionist by your talk. It was as sweet as the bhajan. We want to do another perfusion here. We want to reconnect the old circuit that you had. I would like to request Uncle Vishwanathan to come up to the stage and give us a token of our love and appreciation for the task very well done.
Hard to step away from the mic, but I really want to acknowledge the role that Sri Vishwanathan played. He played a stellar role, and we had thousands of interactions in Parthi, but Swami has this way of bringing the right people, and of course it was a great opportunity in his own life to see firsthand and to interact with Swami, but it was also the work that he did there was phenomenal. So I just want to also acknowledge that, and it's a great honor to receive this from him.